Tomorrow I'll try to do the upload. So the package manager in Node.js called NPM helps us to easily organize and manage the dependencies of our project, whether we are the one that wrote those libraries before and push them to a repository like npm repository, we or the one that other people have written, we can use npm to manage those dependency and bring them to our add them to our project and use them as at when needed. So if we come now to our module, if we study successfully in this project using the npm.install, sorry, npm install, the name of the module, we'll be able to see our socket IO now. Yeah, you can see here now we have socket IO. Now there is something you notice here. It has other dependency that it needs. We have socket IO, we have socket IO adapter, socket IO passer. All these other ones are dependent. These ones, the pass socket IO needs them. If you open socket IO, you'll also see it has its own package.json because it also needs to organize its own dependencies and several metadata of our project. If you scroll down, you see several information. You see the type information, the license, the repository, and then you see the script section, just like the way it is in our own project. When you come to dev dependency, you also see we'll explain all these section one after the other later. We need to just look at the structure now. Now you look at the adapter, which I just want to show you. We look at this socket IO adapter. That means this socket IO depends on socket IO adapter. It also depends on socket IO passer. That is why when you install the socket IO adapter and passer is also going to be fetched by the same installation. And then sometimes the child dependency of your package might not be installed, but you know package npm will be able to tell you that you have pair dependency that are not installed, and then you can take actions of installing them. So I want to go back to our own package.json. Now you see we have installed the file, but our socket IO is not here. Then in order to make sure that it stays there, we can put dash dash save. When you put dash dash save, your installation will definitely make sure that it's added to your package.json. If you don't put dash dash save, most of the time you will most likely not have it in your package.json. Now you see I've reinstalled it again using dash dash save, and it's now added to our package.json dependency section. Why it's in the dependency section is because it's actually a dependency. We are not the one that wrote them, but we have added them using npm to our project. So it will come to the dependency section. Then I want to add another one, another module called jest. So let me put, I think, dive hyphen D just. Now, when you put hyphen D, you are referencing the dev dependency. The difference between dev dependency and dependency is this dependency are the files or modules that your application need to run with, even in production and when you are developing. The files in this section, the modules you specify in this section are very critical to your application. But the ones in your dev dependency just helps you to manage the running of your application. Those things might not be required, they are not necessary for your application to run in production, but they are very helpful in helping you to run or do some other things with your application when you are developing it in your machine. So that is where to install such dependency, you can put npm install or I hyphen d or dash dash dev. You can use dash dash dev just like we use dash dash save. So if you can use dash dash dev, it will move for the dev. Mostly use the dash D. So if you look at it here, another session has been created in our package.json called dev dependency. And then the jest and the version has been added there. We want to add another one again. And let's say this is a nodemon. And we hit enter again. It's also going to be added in our dev dependency because we still have the hyphen D. Now, when you look at the structure of the things in the dependency, what you have on the left here before your column is the name of the module you are installing from npm or any other repository. And then what you have at the right part is the version you want to install. When you put this correct before the number, you are saying that from this particular version upward. So if there is a new release of your application of this module called Express, and then we run npm install again, it will go and pick the latest version that is available. But however, it will not add any version less than 4.18.2 because we are specifying this as for npm to look from this module, this version upward and install for us. The same thing applies to every other thing you have either in the dependency section or in the dev dependencies. Now we have another section in this module file called license. The license is specifying the type of license that this your project, your module, or your package is going to have. If it is an open source license, you need to specify the license type. Like in this case, what I specified when I was creating this project, I was scaffolding using npm init was IXC. You can equally use other ones like MIT or Apache, different kind of license. Whichever one you use, it will be specified in this license section. And then you have the section called author. This one is just for you to put the name of the person that actually wrote or scaffolded this project. Then you also have a section called contributors. Contributors. These contributors is an array of the list of people that contributed to this project. So we can have your name here. Say Chinedu is going to contribute to this project. Then we can also have the next person in saying and Destiny. Destiny is going to contribute to this project. So you can add the list of all the people that contribute to this project in this section. Then we have another section called the keywords. This keyword is used to refer to the terms that can be used to identify your project, things that are peculiar or that the area which your project belongs. And if you're searching for tutorials, this your project fall under tutorial, it will be easy to find. Now let's go to, if we go to npm.com, this is one of the npm file page. So if we come here and search for, let's say we look for nest and we hit enter. This is a keyword we are searching in npm repository. You see several things that are related to it will come up for you. But let's do our searching. Oh, sorry, I am in the wrong in the doc section. Let me go out of npm doc and go to npm directly. All right, so if I search here and put next, hit enter, I'm searching a keyword. Now look at all the things that have next. It said this is an exact match. The name of the project is Nest. This is exact match. But then you have other things that have Nest in it that are similar. You have things that are coming up. You see array flatten, Nest.js slash core. All this will have Nest in it. We are searching based on keyword. Look at so many things that have Nest in them. This the files or modules or packages that we can see. And when we see that the keywords, we can see that we are arranging group of words that belongs to or that relates to our project. Then we have a section called script. This script section is where we specify the actions that we can run on our project. For example, we have an action called test, and test is running jest. We have installed jest here. So anytime we run test is going to record jest for us. Now, if I come here and put npm test, I'm actually calling this test script we see here. I'm calling this test script. So if I hit enter here, test is going to call jest, which is specified in front. Now look at in my console, you are seeing jest is now called. That is the action section of your package.json. Is controlling the actions or the activities that can be executed on your project using npm commands or the commands of any other package manager in Node. So we can come here and also specify another command, say start, and then in our start we are saying start should be node index.js, and then we want to specify another one and say start column dev. And then we say this one should not be nodemon. We installed nodemon earlier, so we just specify nodemon index.js. So now let's come to our code and run npm start. Now look at what it's going to do. It's going to call node index. You see the code we have in front here is going to be executed. Instead of us to be running node start all the time, in node index, we can then be running npm start, and npm start is going to call node index.js for us. And we know what this will do. It is going to run our application. So if we also come here and say npm run start, and then we put colon dev, it's now going to call this command, which is going to execute nodemon in return. So let's hit enter again. Now you see what is going to happen. npm run. Now nodemon index has executed, and nodemon is now running our application. What nodemon does is that when you save your application, nodemon is going to rerun your application instead of every time you are stopping it by yourself and rerunning it. So if we come here now and make changes in our application and save, nodemon is going to rerun it. Anytime you save, nodemon will rerun your application. That is a very important module that is useful in development. We don't need such module in production because the server handles those kind of restarting of your application in case of error or anything. But in development, it's very helpful. Like in our case now, as you're writing your code, you don't need to be stopping the runner, hitting Control C to stop it like this and then start afresh. Once you use nodemon, nodemon will be doing the job for you. It watches your file changes. Anytime your file changes, or you do a save, you change the file, you edit anything or you delete anything, it's going to trigger nodemon, and nodemon will run your app for you. Okay, that is it about the script section. You can specify as many scripts as you want. If this is TypeScript, we can also specify a build command. But with normal Node.js, we don't need build. We can also see this command called publish. You can use this to push your code to npm repository. There are so many of them, the commands that you can use in your script section. But we just stop at this three at the moment. Now you have the main. This main is specifying the file that will be called anytime node is called on your project. In our case, our main is index.js. Your main can be any file, but the popular words that have been used for Node.js project is index, main, app, server. These are most popular ones I've seen in many projects, but you can call your main whatever thing you want as the file that you are going to use as your main file, which is going to harbor or where every other file will be imported in. That is actually what is the looking for. You specify it as your main, and then everything you will import there. Once this main is run, is going to trigger the other files. Then you have the section for description, which is just a string that describes your project. Like in our case, say this is a beginner-friendly tutorial on Node.js. Then you have the version, which is your version or the version of your project. So in our case, this is version 1.0.0. If you come to our dependency, you see that some of these versions are in the higher one version order. Like this one is version 4.18.2, and then you are seeing this one is version 29.1.3.1. So as you're making changes, significant changes, you can be changing your versions, and you push the code online. And then we have the name of the project, which is very important. It's also a string containing the name of your project. In this case, our project is Node.js tutorial. Okay, I don't know if you have any question at this point regarding our file before we proceed.
No, sir, I don't have any questions.
Okay. So is you can build a Node.js application that doesn't require Package.json, provided you are not using a third-party library. You'll be okay. But if you're using a third-party library, once you do an installation, NPM is going to add the Package.json for you. And once that is added, it's going to track every other file you install in your project. Now we have another file called package.lock.json, package-lock.json. And now you look at, it's very similar to what you have in your package.json. You have the name, the version, but then you have the log file version. This is no longer your version, but the version of this log file. And then it says require, which is true. You also have packages. This is where you are now going to have the list of all the packages that your application have. And then you see your dev dependency is still there. You see your normal dependency is still there. Now, this package lock JSON is specifying the particular packages that your application needs and their versions, and is going to lock them. So in case there is need for changes, you're making changes, they are all going to be tracked here in your package log. It's a very important file wherever you are using NPM. NPM creates it automatically. You don't need to worry about it. Once you do an installation, NPM is going to create this file and then track all the dependency you have in your package JSON. Okay. Now, this file is always very uninteresting when you look at it, and it's always not interesting. You look at the detail of each of the project modules you have, even their node version, the minimum required node version. You see them here. You see different things about your project. When you, as you keep scrolling, you'll be seeing different modules and different data. All of them are still regarding your project. So you need to understand package log is not package JSON, but it's very helpful, very important that NPM ensures that package log is always created anytime you do an NPM install operation in your Node.js application. All right, so if you look at our file now, you see that we have different file like add.js, which we have imported in our index.js. So when you call that npm run start, which runs your application, it's going to make sure that all the other dependencies you will need, all the other files you imported in your index are all going to be imported and run at the same time. That is why you always need to reference your main as the file where every other thing is imported. Like we didn't import index in add.js, but rather we import add.js in index. So if you had made add your main file, everything in index.js will not be executed because it will not be part of your project. But if you have, as we have made index.js our main project or file, all those things we have in add.js will be part of the project because they are imported in our main JS. Okay, and this conclude our section on package.json.
So I have a question. I want to ask something.
Okay.
You said this package JSON is if you are using a third what's it called dictionary? Is it third party? Let me
Modules.
say you want to import a module here. And that means you can build a project without a third party JSON if in case if you are not importing anything. But what of this package log? Is it compulsory?
No, no. If so long there is no package JSON, package lock cannot be there.
Okay, so
You only have package log when you do npm install which will create a package.json and then create the package log for you. Package log is tracking what is in package.json. So if there is nothing to track, NPM or Node is not going to create the package log.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now we look at Node.js events. Now, you remember I told you that Node.js is basically running JavaScript on the server. And that means things that are available in JavaScript are available in Node.js to a reasonable extent. Just some things are not part of it, like the DOM in the browser, because there is no DOM in Node.js. And I told you JavaScript have certain events, especially when you're working on your HTML. There are events that you can use to trigger your JavaScript code. Now, Node.js was built around events, and that makes it make Node.js to have an entire module dedicated to events, which is the event emitter. Everything in Node.js is actually built around that event. As you are running your application, is creating events, and these events are being passed across, or they are communicating with one another, and different things happen across different stages of your events. And you also can create your own custom events by requiring the event module of Node.js. Now, in the event module, you have a class called EventEmitter, which can be used to raise and handle custom events. When you raise an event, you are actually creating an event that other parts of your application can listen to. Just like I told you that when you run your application is going to listen on a port when you call this listing. This listing is also is referred to those kind of events. So it's going to create an event in your system that will make your application to be listening on that particular port in your system. So if you look at what I'm showing you here, is saying server.on. We are looking at this is an event in Java in Node.js that this is listening to an error event. This error here is an event. When an error occur, it's going to be handled in this event. So there are events everywhere in Node.js, everywhere. That is what I just show you this listing event, this listing here in, and then you are going to see inside it, it has an event already. Now, how do we create our own event in Node.js? We can create it by requiring the event module, like I said earlier. So let's come here and say, and let's say const events. We say equals require events. Now I told you that event emitter is one of the class in this event. So let's come here. Let's just shift all this one down and then create our event emitter as EM just for short. We now say event emitter, not error monitor, it's event emitter. Now because it's a class, you need to specify the constructor. Okay, so now we have created our event emitter. So what do we do? We can then begin to create events. So we can then say em dot on. Now you use on to listen to event. This on is actually a listener. It's going to say it's going to make this event emitter to listen on a particular event, just like we listening on a port with a server. When we create a server, we make the server to listen on a port. So when we say on, our event emitter here now is going to be listening for an event with the name of what we are specifying here. So now we want to create an event for greets. And then you remember Node.js I told you is all about callback. So now we specify the callback, and callback is just a function that will be executed in another function. So here, let's say we are expecting a data which can be empty or whatever. Now we can say console.log, console.log written from subscriber, and then we put the greeting data here. Okay. Now we have created a subscription here, a listener here, and then we now need to raise the event. We need to call the event now. So what we need to do is to use the the module, event emitter module, and then we call the emit function. And what are we emitting? We are emitting greet, which we are already listening to. And then we are going to pass the data we are expecting. So what we need to pass here now, you remember where we are listening to it, we have data which is expecting. So we'll pass it as a second parameter here. And what we pass, and let's just say hello from event emitter. Okay. So if we run our code, we are going to see the result of this event emitter in action. Okay, I didn't create this. All right, this is an error here. So let's raise it now. We look at in our server here, in our console here, we are seeing greeting from subscriber, and this is the message we are seeing, hello from event emitter. If you look at our code, it is when we are doing the emit, we are sending this message. But then we are already listening to greet events here. That means the message we pass at this point will be seen at this other point where we are doing the listening. So this is a typical example of event emitter. We can emit different events, send different kind of data, and we can be capturing it in different section of the application. This can even be in, we can have this in a different place. We can have it down or different section of the code. It doesn't matter. So long that event emitter is listening on this event, is going to capture the data that is sent at this point. So using the event emitter, the first step is to import it, which we did at this point. You already know that this is how you import a module. And you need to know that the events module is a built-in module in Node.js. You don't need to install that. You see that we didn't run NPM install in order to import the events module. Now, just like we did in our JavaScript, we use the function called add listener instead of using the on. You know, we are doing in JavaScript in our browser, we are doing on click, on click. Then at one of the examples we did, instead of using the on click, I went and added the click event using JavaScript by doing the add event listener function. And then when we did that, we were able to put that event listener, link it up to our button, such that though we didn't put on click in our HTML, but when you click the button, it's going to execute the code that is in the callback of our add event listener. So now in this example, what we are going to do now is let's come here and say em.add event listener. You can see we have it here. What is the event list we are listening to? We are listening to greet, just like in the other case. And then we also have to expect our data. And at this point, we can still write our console, and then we say console.log add event listener, and then we specify our data here. So if we save our code, we are going to see this. Now you look at the next command, the next console, add event listener is also there. So whether you use add event listener or you use the on events, the on is all going to result to the same thing. So in this case, you are hooking the event by this add event listener. You are creating an event listener. But in this case, you are listening on a particular event called greet, which both of them result to the same thing. In the event emitter, there are other functions that are very helpful. You can have the em.remove listener, and in this case, you can use it to remove the greets. If we remove this now and we save, you see that our grid has been removed. If we put this at the top, and this, let's say we put it at this level, now because both of them is at this point, but at anything after this point, it will no longer be recognized. Once we have removed the event, if the event happened without adding it again, it will not be recognized. But after removing, you can still, add that particular event. Now you can also say listeners, to list the list of listeners. Let's say I'm going to log listeners. All right, you see that we have two functions here, which is signifying the two events that are listening to greet. If we put another thing here, another function, let's say greet one, and we save, you see that our listeners is empty because there is nothing actually listening to greet one, but we have two listeners for greet event, and that is why you have seen two here, though in form of this array, but you're seeing two anonymous function in form of this array. So if we had, let's say, created a function here, and then we call this greet, we have this data here, and instead of this, we have this and log it here and add this event listener. Instead of this, we now have our greet function. So we save this now. You see that though this first one is anonymous, the second one is having the greet function because the function we have as the callback here actually have a name, and it's that name that you are going to see where at this point when you list the listeners of the particular event. Then there is something you can also do. You can extend the event emitter class, but we'll proceed on this now during our next class. I would want us to stop at this moment so that I don't want to be bombarding us with so many information at the same time. So we'll stop here. We've treated the package.json file, the package log, and event emitter today. As we meet again tomorrow, sorry, on Monday, we move forward and still consider Node.js features until the point where we have also gotten enough information that we can begin to proceed to build more complex apps. So I don't know if you have question at this point.
No question, sir.
Okay. So what we do, you take your time within this weekend and then try to practice the little things you have done on Node.js from the beginning. You've already installed it, which is nice. Just try to do some practice along, and then we keep pushing until we are able to master what we want and be able to build complex applications using Node.js.
Okay, sir.
All right. Good night and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Bye.